All right. So, yeah, the astronauts are finally back. You would think that would just be a simple story we could celebrate, but even that's getting politicized, which we will see. But hey, after 9 months in space, the stranded NASA astronauts return home. I guess I'm going to have to retire this sound drop. This might be the very last time I put this on just for this story.
This is ground control to Major Tom.
One last time.
One last time.
Suni Williams and Butch Wilmore, the U.S. astronauts, stranded for 9 months on the International Space Station, finally made it home on Tuesday, March 18th. They returned to Earth with the two members of the SpaceX Crew 9 mission, NASA's Nick Hagee and Russian cosmonaut Alexander Gorbanov of Roscosmos aboard SpaceX's Dragon Freedom spacecraft. The four crews successfully splashed down off the coast of Florida at 5:57 Eastern Time. Teams aboard SpaceX recovery craft boarded Dragon Freedom and assisted the crew. The astronauts were then flown to NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston to be reunited with their families. Sunita Lynn Suni Williams, 59, and Barry Eugene Butch Wilmore, 62, these two are in pretty good shape, lifted off on June 5th, 2024, on a mission to test Starliner, a Boeing spacecraft, that was their first mistake, designed to transport crew to and from the ISS and other destinations in low Earth orbit. The astronauts had not planned to spend more than 2 weeks in space, but technical issues with Starliner thwarted that plan. Yeah. In order for the astronauts to return home, NASA decided to send only 2 astronauts instead of 4 on the subsequent SpaceX mission. Williams and Wilmore would travel back to Earth in the 2 vacant seats in the SpaceX vehicle. After some delays, that mission, Crew 9 with Hagee and Gorbanov on board, lifted off on September 28th, 2024, bound for the ISS. But this didn't mark the end of Williams and Wilmore's stay on the space station. It was still necessary to wait for the next mission to arrive at the ISS in order to leave the space station with an adequate number of personnel to operate it. So even after Crew 9 had arrived, Williams and Wilmore had to wait for the arrival of Crew 10, which did not happen until March 14th, to be free to return to Earth. All right, so I did a little cut of the sequence of events. We'll mute the beginning because there may be copyrighted music on there.
Coming from the WB-57 high altitude plane, and there you see it on your screen.
Got it.
Yep. There they are, coming back down. Wow. And are they able to aim it so that they land in the water? Or I guess it doesn't matter.
I assume so. Yeah. That's on purpose. Yeah. They would just say, it'll come down somewhere, guys.
Will egress from
coming down in
the
Brooklyn.
Dragon spacecraft. Now, here on your screen, we can see dolphins, actually.
After 9 months, so there was a dolphin
Dragon.
pod there.
Now, one of the fast boats
crazy.
there in place, working
Dolphins
to
got
assist
curious.
the recovery team member.
Imagine they land and get attacked by sharks.
We can see them coming off. And there she is, Sunny Williams.
Big smile, big waves. She, like her other crew members.
There we have it, some waves, some thumbs up, and some smiles. We're getting some views of him now as he egresses or exits the spacecraft.
Look at that. They made it. 9 months. Wow.
Yeah, so you can see how weak they are from being in space that long. People have also commented that they're gray. Some people think with her it may be, hey, no hair dye in space. She is 59. It would not be unusual for her to be naturally gray. So, but that can be an effect of prolonged stay in space, that your hair goes gray. So nobody's quite sure, but obviously very hard on your body to be in that environment for 9 months.
I hope they have their passports. They're going to end up in El Salvador in jail.
I heard they're being held in an ICE detention facility.
Yeah,
There were some problems with their visas. So this is one of the funnier conspiracy theories, one of the funnier unofficial ones, appropriately enough from an account called the Flat Earth Zone. Astronauts return, reality or rendered. The recent rescue of astronauts stranded in space has the internet buzzing with skepticism. By internet, he means him and 6 of his friends.
Right.
Dolphins conveniently appearing around the capsule upon splashdown. Too cinematic to be real. Parachutes that seemed more like flawless CGI than actual equipment. A splashdown in cold waters with no steam rising, defying basic physics. Is this a genuine space mission or just another high-budget production? We got in the wrong business, man. We should really just, spread conspiracy theories for money.
Yeah.
It would be a lot easier. So the White House, speaking of conspiracy theories, so the White House, of course, wants to get out in front, take as much credit as possible, like they do. Promise made, promise kept. Now the plans to bring them home and the means of bringing them home, of course, were made in the Biden administration. I've been covering this story from the beginning. I think it was probably by the summer they had decided they were going to do it this way.
It was going to be February or March,
Yeah, and like that SpaceX was going to do this, and
Right.
they were going to leave 2 astronauts. Like I remember covering this, I think on Jimmy's, so that's like a year ago. President Trump pledged to rescue the astronauts stranded in space for 9 months. So just come back. Today, they safely splashed down in the Gulf of America. I didn't even catch that when I made this.
Was it in the Gulf of America? Wow.
In the Gulf of America. Thanks to Elon Musk,
Poetry.
SpaceX, and NASA. Okay, so of course they had to politicize it. But Musk takes it even further. He goes on with Hannity and claims that Biden could have done it, but he didn't for political reasons.
I'm only going to ask you one political question, just for clarification purposes only. I don't think this should really be a political night. I think this is a moment where the country should celebrate.
That's right.
The fact that you were able to rescue them, that it happened successfully in spite of the difficulty, the challenges, and the danger. But I just want to clarify on the issue of whether or not you had offered to send this rocket to space to rescue these astronauts sooner to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. I heard somebody earlier today say, in fact, that didn't happen when I believe it did.
No, we definitely offered to return the astronauts earlier. There's no question about that. The astronauts were only supposed to be there for 8 days, and they've been there for almost 10 months. So obviously that doesn't make any sense. SpaceX could have brought the astronauts back after a few months at most, and we made that offer to the Biden administration. It was rejected for political reasons, and that's just a fact.
They left them up there because they're not trans. They said if you guys if you agree to transition as soon as you get back, we'll come now. But if you're gonna remain your sex, then you have to wait.
Well, we wanted to run an experiment on the effect of puberty blockers in space. So if you're willing to take some puberty block, you're not? Well, okay, we're leaving you out there.
Fucking wait then. Enjoy your freeze-dried frosted flakes or whatever the hell you eat up there.
Oh, enjoy your Tang. Okay, so obviously the claim makes no sense on the face of it. Like, why on earth? As I said, the plan that it was going to be SpaceX was made under Biden. So it's not like a case where they didn't want to use SpaceX because it's Elon Musk's company. It was the Biden administration that signed off on using SpaceX. So once you've agreed to use SpaceX, why on earth would you, if you had an option to bring them back under your administration, especially with an election coming up?
Right.
What would the political advantage be to not bringing them down if you could? The whole claim makes absolutely no sense.
It would depress enthusiasm amongst the trans activist base to bring back a couple of cisgendered people. That's what they were afraid of.
I mean, that could have been it. That could have been it. They wanted to send up the one who went topless on the White House lawn movie. But But yeah, no, it makes no sense. But Elon knows that people who actually take him seriously are the dumbest fucking people on earth, and he can literally say anything.
Oh, you can just say anything.
It doesn't matter if it makes any sense. Yeah, you see that Biden didn't bring them back. I'm so bad. It's just what a bunch of fucking losers. So of course, you have the whole ecosystem of people who, your account's big enough, you get checks from Elon. Literally, you get checks from X. I'm sure Elon Miles Chong is probably getting enough clicks to be getting some of that money, and he just amplifies it. That's how this all works. The astronauts are coming back to Earth thanks to Elon Musk and Donald Trump, and they're thankful for it. It's unbelievable how Biden left them stranded up there because he didn't want Elon Musk to get the glory of returning them safely home. Moron. SpaceX was literally contracted to do this while Biden was president, and I think while he was still running for president, they got this contract. The whole premise just makes no sense.
If they didn't want him to get the glory, why'd they hire him?
Why'd they hire him? It's just so stupid. So just to look at what NASA says about this. NASA officials undermine Musk's claims about stranded astronauts. Musk claims he made an offer directly to senior officials in the Biden administration. We have no way to verify that, but it does seem clear that the Biden administration never communicated such an offer to lower-level officials within NASA who made their decision for technical rather than political reasons. These guys just want to ocean gate everything. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Quote, I think we work for NASA, and we worked with NASA cooperatively to do whatever we think was the right thing, the SpaceX official Bill Gerstenmaier replied. We were willing to support in any manner they thought was the right way to support. They came up with the option you heard described today by them, and we're supporting that option. That is a man who's afraid of losing his job. How do I say absolutely nothing? Did Trump tell NASA to accelerate Butch and Suni's return? There's the other claim they're making, that they came back sooner because of Trump. On February 11th, NASA announced that the Crew 10 launch was being brought forward to March 12th. This was a couple of weeks earlier than planned, and it was possible because NASA and SpaceX decided to swap out Dragon capsules, leaving a previously flown vehicle, Crew Dragon Endurance, for Crew 10. So was this change to accelerate the return of Wilmore and Williams politically driven? The decision to swap to Endurance was made in late January, Steve Stitch said. And this, I forget what his exact title is, but I think he's the person overall in charge of these missions. And this allowed the launch date to be moved forward. Asked if political pressure was a reason, Stitch said it was not. It really was driven by a lot of other factors, and we were looking at this before some of those statements were made by the president and Mr. Musk, he said. So what should just be a nice non-political thing. I mean, Elon has a right to take a victory lap. Like, I wouldn't deny him that if he wants to be like, yeah, our great technology brought these astronauts home. Fair enough.
Right.
But he couldn't just leave it at that. He had to turn it into, oh yeah, we could have done this. Just make this absolutely nonsensical statement, which a lot of people who just take everything that he says as an excuse to vent their rage at objects that are less scary than the real problems in their lives that are really causing the problems that they have. It's just catnip for these people, man. It gives them a sense of purpose, structure. It's a very simple good versus evil, right? And every day you give them another shot of how you got screwed by these people. And the other side does it too. I mean, there's just their version of that.
Yeah, and I love Sean Hannity there. Now I don't want to ask a political question, but yeah. Oh boy,
just sad, man. You can't just celebrate the astronauts coming home and hey, man, just take a victory lap.
Yeah, that's all.
Nobody'd begrudge you that.
take the good press. It's free good press.
That's
you know?
it. They have to turn it into this us and them, because that's how they control their base. That's how they control them. They give them. I've said this before. This is something that's very deep in human psychology. People don't like nuance. They like very simple good versus evil stories. That's why I think it's every top 10 film now is basically a very simple good versus evil story for children. They're
Right.
all Marvel, Star Wars, because that you look at our folk tales and all the Joseph Campbell stuff. It's this good, evil. They cast the politics that way, and that satisfies a need that people have, and they won't look too deeply into whether what you're telling them as is true. It satisfies an emotional need.
Please clap.